Alright, this is episode 6 of Poets and Depression. It's called This Is Not the Vinyl I Had in Mind. Um, the idea for this episode actually came from a conversation I had with somebody on Threads where we had talked about depression and mental health and mental illness and feeling like it's something that we always talk about, feeling like it's something that never goes away, kind of because it doesn't. It's also just that idea that people might get tired of always hearing about it, so you might not want to be as open as you could be about talking about your depression or your mental illness, and that's not necessarily a good thing. And truthfully, we're probably the only ones that feel that way when we're talking about it. We feel like we're a broken record. And so this poem, This Is Not the Vinyl I Had in Mind, was written when I was at a point where I felt like I was a broken record, where I felt like I was the one that was constantly saying the same thing over and over again. And like people are obviously, that people have to be getting tired of me just saying, hey, I'm depressed, hey, I'm depressed, hey, I'm depressed, hey, I'm depressed. And time again, I found that wasn't the case, but mental illness is really good at lying to you about things, and that's one of the things that's good about lying to you about. Um, so that's where this poem came from, and this is from that conversation that I had. So here's the poem. This is not the vinyl I had in mind. I was going to say I feel like a broken record, skipping on depression, depression, depression. Picture daisies in a field and me, slightly overweight, with long hair and a beard, skipping through them. It's that, but not happy. Instead, I pretend to be a daisy, firmly planted in the ground and waiting for the sun to come out. It's shy, like my ability to initiate sex. And the dirt around my ankles is dry and sandy, not the kind of thing to offer support. I was going to say I sound like a broken record, skipping on depression, 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 forsaken. I think we can safely move past the daisies at this point. The metaphor doesn't work, and honestly, I'm not sure I do anymore either. I can't even pretend to be on the mattress, sunken in sheets with you riding wild, a daisy flaying in the storm and losing leaves. But the image just isn't there, is it? I mean, there's the skip. But which foot goes forward? Am I right or left? I was going to say I'm a broken record, skipping on depression, 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 but coiled so tightly like a clock I could explode. A symphony of brass breaking as gears and springs sproing into every direction but mine. Am I even left in the middle, with not even a daisy or the touch of you to pretend to care? When all I have left is the lubrication, and I don't even know what to do with that anymore. So this, as I said, was a poem I wrote when I was in a place where this was before I found medication that was kind of starting to work. And I was just in a darker place. I was in a worse place. And I was still battling with figuring out what's going on with my depression. And honestly, I still am, just in different ways. So this really came from that idea of depression feeling like a broken record, because it's constantly stuck on depression. Your life is constantly stuck on depression. It's not like it gets any better. It's not like it gets any worse. It's what it is, and it's not great, it's not ideal, it's not fantastic, it's not fun, it's not anything. Like I talk about throughout the poem, like I pretend to be a daisy, or the ability to initiate sex, or having that kind of stuff like that, but none of it's good. Like, depression isn't good, and it takes those things that you enjoy, and it takes those things that you find pleasure in, and it sours them, it poisons them, it makes it so you don't feel anything about them anymore. And how do people know that that's where we're at, or that's how we feel about things, if we don't tell them? And depression doesn't want us to get better. Depression wants us to stay down in the doldrums with it. It wants us to stay down in the dump in the gutter with it. It wants us to stay dirty and broken. And that's another lie of it, is that we're broken. We're not broken. Our depression is broken. And our depression does everything it can to make us think that we are the ones that are broken instead. Which is is bullshit, but it's very convincing bullshit. Um, yeah. So I've got a lot on my mind, a lot of going through. I know I needed to sit down and record an episode. I wanted to talk, and so I might meander a little bit. But it really kind of comes down to this because I've been feeling like this way again too, which is why this is an appropriate episode, even though it's an older poem. Because the last week I haven't really written too much. I've written a couple of smaller pieces and some that I'm pretty proud of, I think, but nothing quite like I'd like to have written, and I'd like to have normally written. Um, so it just sticks with you, you know? Like, it makes you feel bad because you're not doing what you want to do, even if it's not your fault. And it just makes it a struggle. And again, that's where I come back to this idea of this broken record. And that's where right now I'm probably going to sound like a broken record because I talk about it all the time and I talk about it over and over and over and over. But that's what it feels like. But that's what it is. Like, this is probably one of the more appropriate ways I could write about depression to help people that don't have depression or mental illness understand what it feels like. Because it holds you, it captures you, it keeps you, it makes you stick, it makes you freeze. You can't get past it, you skip. You know, skipping on depression. Think about like a broken record. Like, when it starts skipping, it'll continue to skip until there's an outside influence on it, until there's an outside force, until you manually move the needle. But when you're depressed, you can't manually move the needle. You're going to stay skipping on depression. And the way to get past that is to have people care and to have people reach out and ask how you're doing, and to be able to talk about things and share things, and to be able to be like, hey, I'm depressed. Here's what's going on. I feel like I'm stuck. Because with depression, you most likely are stuck. Because that's what it does. It just holds you tight and doesn't want to let go. And right now I'm kind of going through an ordeal where I'm not spiraling as quickly as I normally would. I'm not as depressed as I normally would be. I think medication has definitely helped that. But I can feel a depressive cycle starting. I can feel like I've already been trapped in one. I feel like I've already been caught in one. And it's discouraging to me because that might mean that the medication's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Or maybe it is, and this is just the first time that I've fallen into depression for a while, like this kind of depression. And then it's also coupled with work. My job has been interesting. I think I've talked about it a little bit here and there, but one of my coworkers left. He found a better job opportunity. He was headhunted and was offered a substantially greater amount of money than he was currently making, and that our company would never have been able to match. Not that they wanted to, because in fact they didn't. They marched him out the door as soon as he told them that he was putting in his 2 weeks, and they said, no, okay, well, see you later, bye, we don't need you anymore. Because that's what our company does. And then another person that I enjoyed working with, he was fired, he was let go. I'm not keen on the reasoning why. I don't think the reason that was given was legitimate. I think there's something else going on there, and I don't agree with that. And so I get stuck with this kind of survivor's guilt, I guess you could say, where I'm still working at this company. I'm still there. I'm still doing my job. I'm still doing my day-to-day. And I feel like I shouldn't be. I feel guilty for still being there. By the time this episode airs, that may have changed. I had an interview last Friday. Well, okay, I guess the timing's not really going to matter that much. I had an interview a couple days ago from when I'm recording this. I have a follow-up interview later today on the day I'm recording this. And it's a job I didn't apply for. It's a job I was recruited by. The president and CEO of the company reached out to me through LinkedIn and said, hey, I'd love to chat. And I said, okay. So we'll see. I think it went okay. We'll see how today goes. I have some decisions to make depending on how this goes. And that's scary in and of itself, because I've been at the job I'm at for like 6.5 years, so there's a certain level of comfort and, status quo there. Things are going well, ish. At least it's what I'm used to. Like, it's the hell versus the heaven that you don't, you know? And as much as I know I need to probably get out of this job that I'm in, because it is turning into a fairly toxic place to work, and that's not good for anybody, or not good for morale, and it certainly has not been helpful for my depression. I've been really, really struggling at work. But at the same time, it's like, I know it, I have it, it's a steady job, it's the job that I know. Um, and so how do I go about learning a new job, and, getting into a new job? Like, I have a lot of fear and anxiety there. That was the same way when I was going to college. Um, I would, throughout the semester, I'd do okay. I'd be in the classes that I was used to, and I'd know everybody, and I'd know the professors. But then even going into the following semester, even though I knew I'd have the same professors, sometimes I'd even have the same classmates because of the creative writing track that I was in, I would have this overwhelming anxiety and fear of going into something unknown. And I've always kind of had that, and I'm sure a lot of people do. Um, but, like, my wife described it as, I have a fear of change. And I wanted to disagree with her at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that she's right. I do have a fear of change. Not in the sense of progress, but in the sense of me actually making a change, and me changing things, like getting a new job, trying to do certain things better. And, I'm due for a change. We're talking about moving this summer. We are moving this summer, and that's going to be a big change, and that's hard. And right now, it feels amorphous and out there, so it's easy to say and easy to talk about. We're going to see how well it works logistically, because we have to sell our house. We have to look at buying a house in a different state at the same time. There's a lot there, and it's a little scary. It's a little nerve-wracking. But, I mean, I know we'll get there. Like, I've told Erica, my wife, I really don't care where we end up as long as we're together, because she's all that matters. And if she needs to move for her own mental health, then we need to move, and we need to do it. And I'm on board. I don't necessarily show that the best sometimes. And that's partly because of my own mental illness and my own anxieties, my depression, and my insecurities coming into bear. Like, just the other day, I thought that somebody had blocked me on Threads because of something I had said to them. And I just tried to reach out and help. And I was like, okay, so I was struggling with that. And it turns out that wasn't the case at all. They had deactivated Threads temporarily to step away for a while. Yep, you're going to hear my dog being debarking. You're okay, potato. But I thought that he had blocked me, and it turns out that wasn't the case at all. And now I feel bad about making that assumption, and it all ties into insecurities, because I'm so afraid sometimes of what people think about me, or I'm so afraid that I'm walking on this razor's edge of people caring and people being genuinely interested in me versus what I do. And if I quit posting, would people even notice? And for the most part, I do fairly well about talking myself off that ledge. Some days less so. And this is kind of where this episode came from as well, because that idea of that broken record, like, I've felt like I'm doing better. I've had a better reaction to this medication than I've had some other ones. I've had a better response, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of plateaued, maybe kind of early. I don't know. I have a follow-up appointment coming up, and so we'll be able to talk about that and kind of see how that's going. But so when I get like this, I feel like I hide what's really going on, because I want people to see this image of, oh, I'm happy and I'm doing better. I fall back into masking, and I'm masking with people that I shouldn't be masking with, which is unfortunate, and I feel I feel torn and conflicted about it, but then I keep doing it. And it's this broken record. It happens again and again and again. It's a cycle, because depression is a cycle, because mental illness is a cycle. Um, at least for me, it's not like I get depression once every year and that's it. It's a constant thing with me. It's constantly there. Certain things can make it worse for sure, like seasonal affective disorder, that kind of stuff like that, Um, but I always have this depression, and I always have to deal with masking, because there are some days if I don't mask, I wouldn't get anything done, or I'd have to have conversations with coworkers that I don't want to have. Like, oh, how you doing? And like, I can't tell them how I'm really doing, because they don't care. And if they do care, I'm not that close with them to be as honest as I need to be. Because the truth is, I don't necessarily know how I'm doing. I don't feel like I'm making progress. I feel like it would be really easy for me to just suddenly stop doing these podcasts, to stop writing, to stop being active on threads, and just to kind of pull away and hide away in a corner somewhere. I am trying really hard not to do that. I don't know how to always fix that sometimes. And for now, I've been able to convince myself to move forward and to be able to just go for it and do it. But I know there's going to be a time when I'm not going to be able to do that. And as much as I offer support to people, I also need support too. And I appreciate the people that reach out to me. I appreciate the people that have reached out to me. There are people that check in. There are people that care. Depression lies and tells me that there aren't any people that care. And it is a lie, because there are people that do care. My wife cares, my therapist cares, quite a few of you on threads care. But as they have told me, as you on threads have told me, as my wife has told me, as my therapist has told me, as everybody has told me, I give too much sometimes. And I have a really hard time accepting anything back. And I have to be able to take care of myself. And that's hard sometimes. It is really hard sometimes. Which is why I sat down to record this podcast today. Because I know if I didn't, I wouldn't. And you need to understand that even when things are looking okay, they aren't necessarily. Like, talk to people. Ask them questions. Don't prod, but be gentle and guide. Give them a safe space to be able to talk. Because I still haven't told this to my wife yet. I will. She'll hear about this. She's not going to find out about this on a podcast. Hell no. I know better than that. I do better than that. I hope I do better than that. But it's a conversation I've put off having because it's a difficult one to have. Because it's not a, hey, I need help with the solution. It's a, hey, I'm struggling too. And my strength is virtually gone right now. And I don't know what to do about that. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay to not know. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to feel like you're a broken record. The important thing is, broken record or not, is that you still keep being that broken record. You need to keep talking about it. I need to keep talking about it. Because if we don't, that's when people stop realizing that there's something wrong. And you can't get the help you need if people don't know something's wrong. So, mask for your health, like I mask for mine in certain places, because sometimes that's just the way you have to do it. But have safe places and safe people that you can be around where you can take that mask off and be as vulnerable as you need to be, as open as you need to be, as honest as you need to be, and let them know that you're struggling, that you need help, that you feel like a broken record. because what else is there? Like, it's okay to be the broken record. But remember, like any broken record, you need help to pick up that needle and move it so you stop skipping.